All right, good evening, everybody. This is our regular scheduled meeting of the Utility Committee of the City of Hartford. As you can all see, we are virtual tonight. So we will get started. Looks like everyone is here except for Dave, and we'll fill in for Dave tonight. So we'll go on to public comment period. I do not believe there is anybody on the virtual for that. So we will move on to item number 3. So we have an update on the service interruptions and water main breaks. So Brian, you want to take that for us?
I got that one. So welcome, everybody. I have 5 interruptions to report tonight. The first one occurred on March 5th at the intersection of West State Street and Rural Street near the Rural Street substation. Module, also known as a bus bar located inside of the pad-mounted junction box, failed, causing the outage. The line crew isolated the junction box and restored power. And that outage occurred just before 2 o'clock in the morning, and we were able to get most of our customers back on by 3. And then all of our customers were back on by 3:45. So this outage affected 2,000 customers in total. Next outage occurred on March 10th at the 100 block of East Rossman Street. Disconnect switch failed, causing that outage. The switch was replaced and power was restored, and that affected 3 customers. The next outage occurred on March 11th on Wacker Drive near the railroad tracks. Transformer at that location failed, causing the outage. And that outage affected only 1 customer, which was the railroad. That transformer was replaced and power was restored there. And then the last outage for Hartford occurred on April 2nd at the intersection of Hilldale Drive and Highway 60. That outage was on a small section of underground cable that had only 2 customers on it. We tested our cable and inspected our equipment and could not find an obvious cause to the outage. And since everything tested out good, we restored power and didn't have any issues after that. However, we did suspect that there was a problem in the customer-owned switchgear. The customer hired a contractor to clean and inspect their gear, and they did find some damage in their gear, which caused the outage. So that problem has been resolved. And then the last outage I have to report tonight occurred in the village of Slinger. That occurred on March 15th. A car hit a pole near the intersection of Highway 175 and Slinger Road. That pole was sheared off at the ground, which also damaged some underground cables that are on that pole. The line crew replaced that pole and made the necessary repairs to the underground riser and restored power, and that affected 30 customers. And then I have 1 water main break to report tonight. That water main was on a break occurred on April 6th at the 700 block of South Main Street near the intersection of Rural or Jefferson Avenue. That break was on a 6-inch water main and was repaired on the same day. And that affected about 25 customers. And that section of water main is in the CIP for 2023. And that's all I have for water main breaks.
Thanks, Brian. Does anybody have any comments, any questions? All right, if not, we'll move on
Brian?
to the next. Oh, go ahead,
Yes.
Doug.
Hey, Brian, on the that South Main Street one, there's 2 valves where it goes into the school so that they can isolate the school so they don't have to shut stuff off. One of those valves, I believe, was not holding completely. Can we just make sure that if we're redoing that water main, that we fix that valve at that time?
That valve would be included in the replacement project.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, moving on to item number 4, presentation of the 2019 PSC annual report.
I got that one.
You got that one, Brian? Okay, go ahead.
Yep. So I included in the packet the 2019 PSC annual report. We submitted that to the Public Service Commission at the end of March. Each utility is required to file an annual report with the Public Service Commission each year. The report's pretty long, but it's broken up into 3 major or main sections: the financial section, and then a section for each utility, the water and electric. There is not one for the sewer utility because that's an unregulated utility. The financial section details the income statements, balance sheets, the bonds, and the taxes. And just a couple key points to point out in that area or in that section would be the cash on hand and our rate of return. The cash on hand increased about $1.9 million in 2019, and that's likely due to having a couple of our main capital projects that were not completed and closed out in 2019. They're still open, so you'll see the results of that in 2020. So likely we'll have a decrease in our cash on hand next year, going back to our normal amounts that we see in 2018. The other key point would be our rate of return to gauge the health of the utility. In 2019, the rate of return for water increased slightly and is up to 5.28%, up from 5.15% last year. And electric is at 5.24%, up about almost 0.5%. So that's good to see. Both utilities appear to be in good condition. And just so you have a benchmark, if you were to go in for a rate adjustment right now, the Public Service Commission is only giving out 5%. So we're above what they're allowing right now. So there's no need to adjust rates at this time. And then the rest of the report basically just shows the statistical data for the water and electric utility, shows the amount of water pumped and sold, the amount of power purchased and used. So just a lot of statistics in the rest of the report. But overall, everything looks good for both the water and electric.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Any questions for Brian? Any comments, guys? Dennis, you got one?
Yes. On the electric utility is owed money from the water utility. And it looks like that's about the only debt that the water utility still has outstanding. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. Well, besides our revenue bonds, we still have 3 bonds that need to be paid back. But each year, the water utility is paying back Hartford Electric about $250,000 a year. So hopefully by 2025, I believe the utility should be debt free with all of our revenue bonds as well as the debt to Hartford Electric.
Great. That's what we want to see.
Okay, good. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on to the next topic. All right. Number 5 is discussion and consideration of approving application for a lateral sewer replacement. Steve, I think you're going to take this one.
No, I'm on.
Wait.
Jeff.
Dave's here. All right. Hey, sorry, Dave.
Yep.
Go ahead,
Took me
Dave.
a while, but I'm. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The city has received a request for reimbursement from the 2020 Sewer Lateral Replacement Fund. City staff feels that Bobby Phillips, who replaced his lateral at 318 Victor Drive, has met all the requirements for fund approval. What the committee will be approving will be an amount not to exceed 30% up to a maximum $3,500 per property lateral. As per the fund policy, after the completion of work, Mr. Phillips did provide the city with a copy of the paid receipt along with a signed lien waiver from his contractor. So it would be the recommendation by staff to approve the application for the sewer lateral replacement reimbursement to Bobby Phillips of 318 Victor Drive at a cost not to exceed $1,740.
Any questions, comments? All right, I'd look for a motion. Doug, you motion?
Motion.
I'll move to approve.
All right. Doug
Okay,
and Dennis. Okay, Doug and Dennis, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, opposed? All right. Motion carries. All right. Thank you. Next item up is discussion consideration to authorize appropriations from city officials to enter an agreement with Performance Roofing Systems. Who's got that one?
I do.
Dave still?
again.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. An
Dave.
evaluation of the treatment plant building roofs by an independent roofing contractor were performed in 2015 as part of a facility maintenance evaluation to prioritize and plan for any building capital repair or replacement costs over the next 10 years. One of the items identified at that time would be the need to replace the roof over the plant administration building in the next 1 to 3 years. The replacement was put into and approved to be completed under the Sewer Utility 2020 Capital Improvements Plan. requests for proposals were sent to area roofing contractors, with 2 companies responding and submitting proposals. Performance Roofing Systems came in with the low proposal at $65,987. They have done work for the city in the past, most recently replacing the EMS building roof in 2019. So staff would recommend to accept the proposal from Performance Roofing Systems Incorporated of Richfield, Wisconsin, to do the plant administration building roof replacement at a cost not to exceed $65,987.
Comments, questions on this? All right, I'll look
got
for
one.
motion. Oh, Kyle, go ahead, Kyle.
So I read that there might be possible insulation repair at $3 a square foot. Are we just hoping that's going to stay under the original $70,000?
Yeah, they assured me it would. I mean, it might be possible, Kylie. We don't have to replace any of it, but you know, and they said that, you know, if it's a small amount, they're just going to do it as part of the job. But if it gets, if it's going to be like a couple thousand over, then I would obviously bring it, and we'd still be under the CIP amount that's approved. But I would definitely, bring it back or talk to Steve about it.
Okay.
They both had it in the
I also-
proposals the exact same way.
Okay. I see on the one bid, there was some handwritten note for alt 1 and alt 2.
Well, yeah, if you read the proposal, the one company included both of those in their proposal, and for whatever reason, this Langer Roofing, if you look at, they have the prices for alternative 1 and alternate 2, and I don't know why they listed it as alternates, because they both have to be done. The blocks are like those. They're like paver blocks, Kyle, 2x2 paver blocks that you walk on up there, so you don't obviously wreck the roof. And they're 23 years old, and they're kind of falling apart. So I don't know why they listed it like that, but they did. So.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there wasn't
And the other
something-
company no, I just wanted to show their total. Adding both those alternatives in to show their total.
Okay, you
Question.
good, Kyle? Is everything? Okay. Dennis, you have something?
Yeah, it's proposed that a 45 mil roof. Was a 60 mil roof looked at, or is the warranty the same either way, or what currently is on the roof? Is it currently a 45 or?
It's a 45 is on there now, Dennis. Neither one of them quoted a 60. I think they probably assume that's what, the biggest problem with this roof, if you look at the pictures you can see on there, is that there's so many things that are, they have to cut around, all those air makeup units, the skylight, the roof vents, everything else. But they don't feel that a 60 mil would really do, other than adding about $6,000 that it cost, would probably do that much more.
Okay, I guess that's what I was wondering, is how much more would it cost? And is there really a benefit to it? I know it would be harder to work with, but you're talking about needing to have pavers on the roof so that the roof doesn't get damaged. Well, if it were a heavier roof, maybe that would be less of a problem.
I think you'd still probably want to go with the pavers if you're going to be walking up there, for anything, Dennis,
Well,
with a 60
I understand,
mil. So,
just less risk, I would think.
yeah. Well, that would be like I say, that would add. I think they both figured around $6,000 to go with that, the 60 mil versus the 45.
Well, we've gotten what, 22 years out of it?
23 almost, yeah. And this was out of the 5 buildings, this was the worst. And like I say, I think a lot of it is because of where, they have to make so many cuts in it for all the rooftop units that are up there, but to get held up pretty well.
All right, well, if we get another 23 years out of it, that I guess should be good. 20 years is about all you can really hope for.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Any other comments? Any other questions? All right. I'll look for a motion then.
I'll motion.
Okay, Kyle and then Doug. All right.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, next item up is discussion and consideration of providing lateral assistance for sanitary sewer extension into the town of Hartford. I believe Jason's going to give us a summary of that.
Yeah, so the Common Council approved the sewer extension into the town of Hartford back in January of 2020. As part of that approval, the costs for the sewer extension are going to be special assessed to the properties. And after we had the public hearing for the special assessments and discussion by council, some of the council requested a discussion to assist the property owners with lateral installations. More specifically, that would pertain to the portion of the laterals within the road right of way. The utility committee began discussing this assistance at its February meeting. They requested additional information for two possible options to consider as part of that discussion. The first option was to provide assistance to those properties just required to cross the roadway in order to install the new lateral. And the second option was to provide assistance to all properties for the portion of the lateral within the road right away. After reviewing the information and the cost for both options at its March meeting, the committee directed staff to review the current lateral program to see if this lateral assistance would work under that current program. After reviewing it, staff has determined the proposal to assist with lateral installation for the sewer extension areas would require its own specific policy. However, the costs for this new program could be covered by the same funding available for the existing lateral program. At the March utility meeting, I did provide some of this following information for approximate cost of lateral work within the road right of way for those two options. That first option, which we just provide the assistance to the properties required to cross the road, would affect 39 properties with an estimated cost per property, which ranged from $3,900 to $14,600 and an average cost of just over $8,000 per property. The second option, which was to provide assistance to every property for the lateral portion within the road right away, would be all 69 properties with the estimated cost ranging from $660 to $14,600. The average cost per property for the near side was about $928. The average cost per property for the far side was just over $8,000 again. Since that March meeting, staff has contacted a local contractor to provide an estimate for the lateral work within the right of way. The average estimated costs provided are approximately $5,000 for properties on the far side of the road and about $900 for the properties on the near side of the road. If the utility committee would like to proceed with this program, a policy and procedure should be established for these lateral connections. The policy and procedure would be similar to the city's existing sewer lateral replacement program. Property owner would need to apply for the program and provide the detailed cost information for the lateral installation. The reimbursement for each lateral would then need to be approved by the utility committee. The program would have a maximum dollar amount available for each lateral connection. Right now, based on some of the estimates we received, staff's recommending maximum dollar amounts of $6,000 and $1,100 for the far side and near side properties respectively. That would result in a total cost of approximately $267,000 for the entire program. And then just please keep in mind that total cost is not going to all come at one time. It could take up to 40 years for all the properties in those areas to connect to the sewer. So you get a little bit of that cost per year for the next 40 years. The fiscal impact would be that the annual cost of the program would vary depending on the number of properties choosing to connect to the sewer. And those costs would be covered with the current annual lateral program funding of $35,000. The recommendation from staff is to draft a final policy providing lateral assistance to all the properties in the 2020 sewer extension areas with a maximum dollar amount of $6,000 for the far side properties and $1,100 for the near side properties.
Mr. Chair, if I can add to that.
Sure, Steve. Go ahead, Steve.
Kyle, being new to this has been, oh God, probably about 2 years in the works since we first heard from the gentleman that he wanted to hook up to the sewer. He was having issues with his sanitary sewer in that subdivision. And then we did the research to find out it was too expensive to do it piecemeal, one home at a time. And so the council came back to us and said, please take a look at what it would cost to do the whole thing to make it cheaper per person. And so we did that. And then we got to, well, do we give subsidies for the whole project and then someone brought up the fact of, well, originally, we originally anticipated that our total cost would be relatively close to the same cost of replacing your sewer system out in the, with a mound system or whatever.
Mound.
Yeah, thank you. And so after we got the bid back from the contractor, it was slightly higher than we anticipated. And some of the residents out there of the town called out the fact that they felt the total numbers would be closer to 30,000 versus the 20,000. And they said specifically because of stubbing out and bringing it to the lateral or to the lateral to the line is one of the reasons that was much more higher. So that's the whole reason why we come back to this situation of the idea of paying from the main to their property line or to their what do you call it?
Property line.
The
The
right of
right-of-way
way, right of way line. And then they would take it from the right of way line to the inside their house and then hook it up into their house. So very long history behind this, why we've gotten to where we've gotten. But in the end, if a person does choose to hook up, once we put the sewer through, the only choice that they have is to hook up to our system once their system fails. The county does not allow them to put a new mound system in once we have a sewer system past their house. And then once that happens, because of our agreement with the township, they would have to annex into the city. So these new properties would be annexed, popping up left and right based on when they hook up to the sewer system. So there's a lot of things that go into this, not just the cost of what this whole thing would be. Again, as Jason said, $267,000. But what we get back is we get a new customer onto the sewer system. We get a new resident to the community, a new taxpayer, somebody paying rec fees and everything else, the park impact fees and everything else that goes along with all this stuff. And so it's more than just $267,000 for 69 residents coming into the city. So.
Yeah, I was at that meeting. I remember it pretty well. I guess I got a couple questions to go along with all of that.
You were the only one in the audience that didn't have a loaded gun?
Pretty much. Yeah.
We remember
All
it well.
right.
So this is
Okay,
the
Kyle.
subdivision south of the theater, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned the main with the stubs. So is the city going to put in the main with stubs? And then this proposal is for giving money back for personal laterals only, not stubs.
This
So when we do
this
the
will
project,
actually
we're
help. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, so with the project, we're not actually going to put in the stubs. We're just going to put in the sewer main itself. The main reason being is that to put in the stubs, we need to know the location of all those sewer laterals in the homes. And with people not being a big fan of this project, I didn't think I'd get much cooperation. So we're just going to leave the sewer in place without stubs. And when it's time for them to connect, they would have to come and cut in a Y or a connection to the existing main. So then this program would pay for partially for that connection into the existing main in the right of way area.
Okay. So the existing sewer lateral program for the 35,000 a year, we're going to be working under that as the main bank. Would you say?
That
Yes.
would be the funding. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Kyle, that would be the funding, we would fund it out of, based on, even if we had 4 people hook up from the town to the city, I think we'll have enough. The first year we maxed the program out, which, you know, and Steve and Jason and I, in talking, figured that that would be the, you know, the most popular year for it, because everybody had been waiting to do a lateral, you know, or couldn't afford it, was able to do it. Now we're down to where we're getting between 6 and 8 a year. So, you know, we should have plenty in that fund to cover, you know, the town and the cities.
If that fund gets maxed out, do they have to wait till next year to reapply?
Well, that's what we have for, you know, we anticipated with the city plan. That's the way the city plan was rolled up when we did it, was that if the fund maxed out, say in October, say we had 15 laterals and we used up to $35,000, that they could go ahead and do it, but they wouldn't be able to get their funding till the following year, till the fund reloaded.
The other thing is,
Okay.
keep in mind that every time that we have somebody hooking up, the utility committee will be brought the proposal. And at that time, Dave would say, okay, we have X amount of dollars left in the budget. And so if we got to the point where all of a sudden we said, okay, we need $6,000 for this guy's lateral, to put towards this guy's lateral, we have 5,000 left. Are you willing to add additional funding into that line item? Transfer money for this year. And then again, if next year we were under budget, we'd again transfer the money back, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So it'd be a case by case basis.
Yeah,
just like we do
absolutely.
now.
Yep.
Right.
Kind of the way it is now, Jeff, yeah.
Yeah, kind of the way it is now. So I have a question. I have one question, if you may. The current process now is 30% up to $3,500. Correct? That's our current
Correct.
program, correct, Dave?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So are we proposing a percentage up to a certain amount? I heard the amount, 6,000 and 1,100, but are we going to do a percentage like we did with the other one? I didn't hear that in the proposal or read that in the proposal.
No, so I was just using the estimates I've gotten. So that was, like I said, that was a local contractor had that estimate. That's what he's estimating the cost for the lateral in the right of way would be. So if we're covering that entire cost, that's where I came up with that maximum dollar amount. Now, when the homeowner is looking to connect and gets a contractor to give him a quote, that contractor will need to itemize that bid showing the cost for the lateral within the road right of way, and then the cost to go from the right of way to the house. So if they get a quote from a contractor for the cost within the right of way, that's $5,000, they would only get $5,000. They're not going to get the maximum 6.
Right. So we're saying a maximum of 6 or 1,100, but we're not.
Yes.
We're not saying anything on a percentage like we did on the other one.
No.
No, it's not based on percentage, it's based on a length. So it just has to get you to the right of way line.
No, understood. But I was looking at, we're on the other program we're running. We're only funding 30% of the cost up to 3,500. In this proposal,
Jeff,
we're gonna. Go ahead.
I think I might be a little clear. Yeah. When we are doing the 30% up to $3,500 max, we're talking about the entire lateral from the house to the street for the city program.
Okay.
You know, where I think, am I correct, Jason, in saying that this is basically covering that cost from the main to the right of way?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll ask the committee, is there an appetite to put a percentage in there as opposed to having it 100% and capping it at these amounts? Dennis, you got your hand up?
Yep. I would say go with what's proposed because we're welcoming new citizens into the city and it's a pretty major expense for them. They're still going to have to come up with about $20,000. So to give them a percentage, okay, so now they'd be paying, let's say 25,000 and we'd be paying 1,700 would be 30%. I don't think that's that much of an incentive. I think if we pay to cover the cost of the lateral in the right of way, that's a fair thing to do. In particular, for the ones that are on the far side of the street, it's not their fault that it was chosen to put the lateral, across the
The
street
main,
or the main across the street. It's not their fault that that's the way it ends up being the most economical way to do it for the city, but they get stuck paying to cross the street. Well, to keep everything fair, we should treat everybody equally and pay for those that are crossing the street as well as those that are only to the middle of the street. And it just keeps everything fair, and it welcomes new citizens and will get an immediate return. The other thing you don't get with the 30% program for replacement is you don't get rec fees, you don't get any of the rest of it. There's a lot of cost involved with it. The rec fee alone will virtually cover all of the money that we're putting out. And that's not considered in the other program at all. So I think it's a fair thing to do is to provide in the right of way. And considering that it came back cheaper than initially was estimated, the estimation came in at 5,000 and 1,100, and we're capping it at 6,000 and 1,100. Am I saying that correctly?
The estimate
At
was
any
at
rate-
5,900.
Okay,
5,900.
then
So we're putting a little
all right,
extra
yeah.
on there just in case.
just to question it. And if I'm
All
not
right.
mistaken, I think there's only one out there that was very expensive. That's a $14,000 one, and that's to a business. So that one, it's hard to say what will happen there, but that will be their call at some future date. They'd still get help, but just not as much of it.
Okay. Thanks, Dennis. Anybody else? Kyle, Doug, you got any other questions? Comments? No?
Nope.
Just want
Jason?
to comment on what Dennis said. Dennis is correct. One of the reasons we have it set up the way we do with that 1,100 and 6,000 is because that sewer is not centered in the right of way. So depending on which side of the road you live on, it's very different costs. Where we thought this way, if we're just using the right of way within the sewer within the right of way and pay up to that point, that kind of evens it out for everybody.
Got it. Okay. Now, I just want to make a comment, and just Steve, correct me if I'm wrong here, but with the agreement with the town and the city, we don't have to offer this. It is part of the agreement, right?
Yeah, we don't deal with those types of details in the agreement.
Right. So this is an additional service that we're potentially providing,
Correct.
correct? So we don't have to do this.
That's
Right?
correct.
This is going to cost taxpayers of the city $267,000 over
But
time.
it's costing the ratepayers, not the taxpayers.
I mean, the ratepayers. So, okay.
But beyond
Wanna-
that, we get approximately $5,000 back every time there's a hookup with the rec fees. So we pretty much get it reimbursed right back again. So
Okay.
that's not the way the rec fee should be used to understand, but it's a way to get people onto the sewer. If we put a sewer line in and nobody hooks up to it, it'll just sit in the ground and we get no return whatsoever. This will help encourage to get people to hook up to it so we get some return off of it.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? All right. Do we have a motion? Anybody get a motion for this?
I'll move to accept the proposal as presented for the capped at 6,000 and 1,100.
Okay. Dennis, and then I see Doug.
Yep, I'll
You got a
second.
second. All right.
Yes,
All in favor then?
Aye.
I,
Aye. All right, opposed? Nobody opposed? Motion carries. All right, let's make the last one an easy one. For adjournment, Doug and, come on, Kyle, raise your hand.
Second.
All right, Doug and Kyle for adjournment. All in favor of adjourning the meeting?
All right.
Aye. All right, gentlemen, thank you. We are adjourned.
Very good.
All
Have a
right,
good evening.
thanks.
A good week.
Happy
All right,
Star
thanks,
Wars
everybody.
Day.